Welcome back. We're talking about processes in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Now remember, there are various processes in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, and these processes could be broken into knowledge area or process group. But let's take a look at these one by one. Let's start from the very first of these processes. The first one, as you can see on the screen here, is called Develop Project Charter. This is all about authorizing the project with a document called a project charter. Here's a brief example for you. The project charter contains high-level information such as the authorization of the project, why are we authorizing the project, who is in authority as the project manager, high-level scope, a brief deliverable description, high-level risks, and high-level schedule. You see, so this is the very first of the processes in the PMBOK Guide. And it's for a reason. It's the foundation stone that everything else is laid upon. When you take a look at the project charter, it's really like a foundational element in that it clarifies why we're working on the project, and it defends the authority of the project manager to apply resources to the project and do whatever else needs to be done. So to clarify what exactly this is, we're going to be going through all the inputs to this process. Remember, every process has an input or inputs, tools and techniques as well to work with on the process, and outputs. So this first one, take a look on the screen. It says Develop Project Charter. The mission is to develop a project charter. Let's take a look at the inputs to developing this project charter. First of all, we've got something called business documents. Now, when you hear the term business documents in the world of the PMI, these are not just some random documents. We have to be intentional about every one of these elements that we're going to be taking a look at. So business documents refers to two things, the business case and something called a benefits management plan. Simply put, a business case makes a case for the project as to why the project should be in existence. You might have heard about this before. A business case is just a document, but it's a document that carries weight, that explains why we chose to do the project and why we chose a particular solution. Sometimes all the options for carrying out the project may be listed, and the particular option that was chosen to deliver the project needs may be justified in such a document. It's called a business case. The next one, the benefits management plan, is a plan that explains how the benefits of the project are going to be realized. It's a plan for how to intentionally discover the benefits and how to meet those benefits over time. Because it's one thing to deliver the project. It's one thing to deliver the project deliverables, but it's another thing to ensure that the reason why that project was undertaken is really met in the organization. So we need a benefits management plan to understand what the benefits are and to outline how those benefits are going to be realized. The next input here is called agreements. Now, this refers to all manner of agreements, be they verbal agreements, documented agreements, letters of intent, memorandums of understanding, contracts, whatever they may be. The next input here is enterprise environmental factors. We've talked about this, and these are factors that could influence the project positively or negatively. We also have another input known as organizational process assets, and I'll refer to this as OPAs, and I'll refer to enterprise environmental factors as EEFs from time to time, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But organizational process assets can be broken into two big buckets. First one, processes and procedures for conducting work in the firm that is carrying out the work. Bear in mind, there could be multiple firms carrying out the work. In that regard, we could have multiple firms with their OPAs relevant to the project. So processes and procedures, and the second category is the corporate knowledge base for any of those performing organizations. Processes and procedures and the corporate knowledge base, those are big. All right. So those are your inputs to developing the project charter. As we're working on this document, we could be referring to any of these to come out with a wholesome project charter. Now, as you've got inputs, remember we've got tools and techniques which are on the screen here. Expert judgment is one. This refers to applying expertise to craft the charter, and this expertise could come from a variety of people in the firm, the project sponsor, senior managers, potential team members, and so on. We also have a very important input here, tool and technique here, beg your pardon, called data gathering. Now, when we talk about data gathering, we're talking about collecting all manner of data. And there are different ways we can collect this data. One of the ways we can collect this data is by using a focus group, by bringing key stakeholders together, people who the project could affect or could be affected by the project, the meeting of the minds, as it were. This is better than sending emails back and forth, get people in a room, gather the information you need. The next one is brainstorming. Brainstorming could be at random, or it could be structured. We could get people into a room again, and we could brainstorm for ideas regarding the project. And the last one under data gathering is interviews. You could interview people free form, or you could have a more structured type of interview. But the main reason we are gathering this data is for the data to be used in developing the project charter, or to be used in the charter itself. The next tool and technique here is interpersonal and team skills. So when we talk about these interpersonal skills, a few of these come to mind. First of all, conflict management. As you're developing the charter, it is not strange to have conflicts begin to emerge. Well, if the project manager has good conflict resolution skills, good conflict management skills to bring people into dialogue and to get them into a win, that is one very important skill in developing the charter. The next one is facilitation. As you are working on developing the charter as a project manager, you need to facilitate different entities from time to time. So the ability to facilitate is a big deal. The next one is meeting management. Whether you're brainstorming or you're having focus groups and all that, meeting management is important. You want to get the most and the best out of your meetings. So meeting management is relevant here. Okay. So the final thing here in the tools and techniques is meetings. We just talked about meeting management. It's a no-brainer. All of these different facets of developing the charter have some elements of a meeting, whether it's the focus groups, whether you are using facilitation, whether you are employing meeting management. Of course, the vehicle has to be the meeting itself. So we meet with various entities to put information together that will be used in the project charter. And the major output, as you can see on the screen here, is the project charter. The project charter, again, is a document that does two big things. One, it authorizes the project, and it immediately puts the project on the company map. It also helps in linking the firm's strategic business objectives to the project. Why are we working on this project? What good is it going to do for the firm? The project charter will help us understand that. Bear in mind that this process, developing the project charter, could actually be carried out at various points on the project. These points could be, for example, at the beginning of phases, or some other predefined points. So bear that in mind. The other big output from here is called an assumptions log. What is an assumption? Anything that is considered to be true on the project without proof. But you also need to make sure that you document these assumptions, because you'll need these assumptions further on in the project. Okay? So let's take a look at this process at a high level again. Develop project charter. We're developing a charter that also authorizes the project. We're developing an assumptions log that contains the assumptions for the project. Okay? And as we do this, we're going to be meeting various people on the project. Okay? So that's it for the first process. Develop project charter. Let me give you a few tips for your exam. Now, I know it's early stages, but if you are determining to take the exam, perhaps it's good to take note of these points. First of all, know your business documents inside out, okay? Your business case, your benefits management plan, know what those are, because you could be tested on those pretty easily. Regarding the outputs, the project charter itself, know what is in the project charter. There are so many different things in the project charter, and I'm actually going to read some of these things that are in the project charter for you because I want you to take note of what could be in the charter. So in the project charter, we could have things like high-level risks, high-level scope being talked about. We could have summary milestone schedules. We could have a list of potential stakeholders or key stakeholders. We could have high-level requirements, and we could also have the approval requirements. How do we know this project is a success? And what are some of the requirements for the project being approved? You know, who decides if the project is successful? And we also have the project exit criteria. What conditions need to be met to close the project? And of course, the project manager's name, whoever's been assigned to the project. Okay. And that concludes our first process of the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Develop Project Charter.